Welcome, sir. Welcome to yet another episode of Thought on Education by College Dunya. So, sir, we would like to know a little about your career till now and how was the journey till today for UEM and IEM?
Yeah, about my career, I am a BTech in computer science and I'm a MS in computer science from University of British Columbia, Canada. And then I did my PhD in nanotechnology from National Institute of Technology, Agartala. I'm the director of Institute of Engineering and Management and University of Engineering and Management. And the journey so far has been phenomenal. It has been a 33-year-old journey of excellence. We are the first in the private sector in West Bengal. And we have opened branches, we have opened universities in Kolkata, in Newtown, and in Jaipur in Rajasthan. And these 33 years, we have held the leadership position in terms of higher technical education, particularly engineering education and management education. Last 10 years, we have started different other fields like hospitality, hotel management, law, all these different other fields. But overall, in this field of higher technical education for the last 33 years, we have been holding a leadership spot. And our USP is the result, which is, of course, the placements and higher study, as well as the entrepreneurships, government jobs. All these are phenomenal. The results are really, really phenomenal.
Great, sir. Great. I'm sure IEM and UEM is a group which doesn't need any introduction or anything. So it is definitely the hard work of yours and your team. So congratulations for that. So, sir, moving forward, I would my first question to you would be, what are the key factors that keep you connected with the education sector? So, since you have this much experience, so what were the key factors do you feel which kept you motivated to stick with this industry?
Yeah, so there are three key factors which motivated us. Number one is students are the future of our country. So definitely, when we devote our energy, our resources to the betterment of students, we are basically working for the future of our country. Okay, so that is first and foremost. Second of all, I think education is a very, very noble profession, and it has a connection with all spheres of life, whether it be healthcare, whether it be technology, whether it be software. So we thought that we would, definitely stay in this field. It's such a noble profession. And the third point, I think, is the fact that I am a fourth generation educationist. Three earlier generations, for me, they were all educationists. And my great-grandfather was a President's Award-winning scholar and teacher, professor of Calcutta University. My grandmother was a teacher and principal of a school. And my father, of course, was a professor and an education entrepreneur. So I am also a professor and educational entrepreneur.
Great, sir. Great to know this. So, sir, my next question to you would be, being the director of the group, what is your philosophy of leadership? How would you describe your leadership style?
Yeah, my leadership style is very hands-on, on the ground, and leading from the front. So whenever any task comes, or any opportunity or any challenge comes, I would be the first to face it from the front, hands-on, and sit in the lab, in the table, in front of the problem, and try to solve it along with the team of very capable faculty and staff members and students.
Okay, so basically you don't believe in working yourself, leading by example,
Yes.
Not by instruction.
Yeah, definitely. Because my education has been in the technological field, computer sciences. So, and we are also in the higher technical education. So it is definitely aligning with my field of education and expertise. So I definitely believe in leading by example and leading from the front rather than leading by instruction.
Great, great, sir. So, sir, like I would like to now moving forward, I would like to know about the university particularly. So, what do you think? How does the curriculum of the university ensure the best practice of the industry?
Yeah, our curriculum is aligned with the industry not only in India but also globally, particularly in the developed nations of US, UK, Australia, Canada, all these nations. So our syllabus, is aligned, and the latest technological happenings, come to our, are embedded in our syllabus before any other university in the country. For example, AR, VR, augmented reality, virtual reality is in our syllabus. Game programming, apps programming, then 3D printing is in our first year syllabus. Entrepreneurship is an integral part of our syllabus along with the practicals of entrepreneurship. So all these technological, then IoT, cybersecurity is a part of our syllabus. So all these things that are emerging technologies that are in the industry, we are at the forefront. It is embedded in our syllabus as well as in our practicals.
Okay. So basically, you believe in the not only education by book, but education by examples also, and in lab and in practice also. So that the students will be industry ready.
Exactly. Education by book comes, I think, is a more of it takes a background seat. It is more education by hands-on learning, education by learning by doing.
Okay, nice. So, sir, after this curriculum, I would like to know that do any insight into how the university could be more welcoming to the students of different economic background and different background altogether?
Yeah, so our university is very, very inclusive because we have people from different backgrounds, different religions, different nations, different states, and of course different economic backgrounds, different cultural backgrounds. So merit plays the biggest role. Merit, and there are scholarship schemes for various economically from various economic backgrounds. There are different schemes where students falling behind in education, they are given tutorial classes, they're given extra classes, they're giving mentoring, and make sure that they are brought to par with other students.
Okay, nice. So, sir, since you have already are talking about so many other things which other parallel university of current time are not doing or are planning to do, so still I would like to know that what do you think should be the university's top priority over next 5 or 10 years?
I think we are in a period of tremendous transition, tremendous change. So for example, the brick and mortar system of university 100% is changing. It'll perhaps be 50% or 40% brick and mortar, and maybe 50 to 60% will be online. Then there is a big change coming in the learning by doing or learning by from the virtual world. There is a big change coming in the way teachers teach, and classroom vis-a-vis in the virtual world. There is a big change coming in the new technologies that will take over the main ways of learning rather than books, but more hands-on technology. So my advice to other universities would be to embrace this change, because this is the only way to survive and to thrive in the very, very volatile world right now. It's called a VUCA world, very, very volatile. So to embrace change and to embrace technology and innovation are the way to go.
Okay. So, sir, since we are talking currently about virtual technology and change, so this COVID situation where we all are currently has shaken all of us. So I would like to know in regard to that. So can you tell us about the steps taken by the university in order to tackle the COVID-19 situation?
Yes. So primarily, I think we have been working online. That is the biggest change. And even before COVID, 2-3 years before COVID, we developed a very robust online lecture system, examination system. So when the COVID happened in March, I think it was March of 2020, it was a smooth transition from our physical way of teaching to our online way, because we had subscribed to Zoom and Google Meet, and we already had meetings and webinars being conducted. It was just 100% moved to that rather than have moved 10%, and we already had our MOOCs, massively online open courseware system. We completely shifted to that. And then the exam system also, proctored online exam system, we shifted to that. And in addition to online teaching learning, we did vaccination for all our IEM and UEM family members, faculty members, staff, their family members. And every week we are having vaccination camps for our students, trying to vaccinate 100% before we physically reopen for the students.
Okay, that's a big steps are taken by the university, because I personally haven't heard about any other university who is doing this thing. So this is really commendable.
Yeah.
So, sir, since I already have come to know that about so many strength and so many positive things about the university, but still, if I may ask to you, that what do you see as the university's greatest strengths?
The university's greatest strength, I think, is in the hands-on learning and hands-on leadership, and the focus on innovation, focus on industry, and focus on research and development.
Okay. So basically, you are trying to make the students industry ready by giving them the practical knowledge. And second,
exactly.
Okay, and the second, which I understood from your answer, is that you believe in the entrepreneurship also. So you try to motivate the students for that also.
Exactly. Every year we have more than 500 companies which are coming out of our IEM and UEM group, and 500 companies are being launched, and they are, students are learning hands-on how to run a company, how to make money, how to earn revenue by creating products and selling services.
Okay. Nice. It's very nice to know this. And so moving forward, till now we have discussed so many about the university, where I got to know so many things, positive things also. But if I can ask that, what are some of the biggest challenges or for higher education in general, and for the university specifically?
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges for higher education is the way that we conduct higher education is completely changing from a brick and mortar system to a virtual world. More and more virtual technologies are taking over, and the emerging technologies, the last 5 or 10 years, what changes we have seen, we might have not seen so many changes in the last 50 years or last 200 years. So the rate of change is very fast. So higher education must cope up, with this change of, social media and virtual world and online streaming and mobile phones. So all these are precipitating the change. It's a massive change, and unless people cope up with this, they will just fall. They will become obsolete. They will not get job and not able to participate in the economic resurgence of not only of our country but also the world. So if students, if educationists are to ride the wave of growth and take the opportunities, they must be agile. They must keep on learning, and they must try to ride in front of the wave rather than try to catch up after that, and not take advantage of the great opportunities created by this change. And regarding our university, of course, the biggest challenges are to keep everyone motivated, all the faculty and all the students motivated to keep on working very hard, to keep on learning new technologies, because this is not easy. Let me say that the high pressure environment, keeping on learning, keeping on doing hard work is not easy. It is difficult, but it is the only way for growth and prosperity. But it is of course a big challenge.
Okay, nice. So, sir, now I would like to ask you that do you have any suggestion? What would you like to suggest to the new aspiring students and young students?
My suggestion is that there are plenty of opportunities, both in terms of jobs, both in terms of entrepreneurship and also higher study. But these opportunities are for those who have the skills and the ability, not for those who have the certificate but no actual practical skills. So the incoming students, the new students, they must think that getting the marks or getting a certificate is not the end of the work, but rather it's a lifelong learning, and to have the expertise and the skill, and to do it in a competitive skill environment, like a competitive coding or a competitive skill environment, that will motivate the students to learn better, more and more practical, more hands-on oriented learning.
Okay, nice. So, sir, now I would like to know from you that what are some of the plans that you are currently or will be designing for universities' international affairs, or students for that matter?
Yeah, our university is very strong in international tie-ups. We are trying to we have more than 4,000 certification programs from universities like MIT, Harvard, and Stanford, where our students, before they pass out, all of them get the opportunity to do as many certifications as possible from all these different universities. Besides that, every week we have foreign faculty teaching classes, we have foreign industry speakers taking classes. So slowly we are merging the foreign curriculum and the foreign way of teaching with our Indian way of teaching, trying to give the best of both worlds to the students.
Okay, it's very nice to know that this system is already in the place in UEM.
Yes,
IEM.
Already in place. Yeah.
Okay, nice. So, sir, this brings us to the last question of this session. So, I would just like to understand that how do you tend to establish a healthy relation and environment in your university?
Yes, I think this is the last but the most important question. The relationship between the teachers and students are what differentiates us, because our teachers and students are like the friend, philosopher, and guide for the students. Our teachers are, and our teachers try to, we encourage the teachers to think outside the box and try to motivate the students all the time, try to mentor the students. We already have a tri-mentoring system in which each student is assigned one faculty member as a mentor, one industry mentor, and one alumni mentor. But the relationship with the student has with the teacher is the asset. So the teachers try to give that ease beyond the formal structure, that if a student has any problem, it can be a personal problem, it can be a financial problem, a health problem, he or she would be not be hesitant to open up in front of the teacher or the counselor or the our mentor, and try to discuss and try to get the solution. So that's where, and we try to keep on proving to the students that this relationship really works. So if a student comes to us with any problem, we jump at it and try to solve it, and showcase that they can confide in us, and that is where the asset lies. This great relationship between the teacher and the student, between the mentor and the mentee.
Right. This is a very important but yet again very rare thing. That's good
Thank
to know that the UEM is understanding this requirement. When I personally was a student, I missed it and I wanted my teachers to be like that. So it's great to know that nowadays some universities are taking initiative to do this and implement it.
We are trying very hard, but again, the biggest challenge is inclusivity. Having all the teachers fall, do the extra hard work, but because doing all these things takes so much time, resource, energy, and hard work. So that is a everlasting challenge that to convince each and every member of the community to participate, to do equally work hard for the benefit of all the people in the society. That's the biggest challenge.
Okay, no problem. So I'm sure if you are working, things will definitely move and get better. So, sir, thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time and for this session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.